Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil. I do apologize for the dark, background here. The light I have right above me was flickering in my last video and I just couldn't take it anymore, so I actually have my iPhone flashlight down here to hopefully give a little bit more light. It's kind of blinding my eyes, but hopefully it gives you guys a little bit so you can see my face, what's going on a little bit. In this video, I want to talk about a couple of gear changes that I hope come into 2024. These are going to be gear, ability mat related, things that I just think going into 2024, I hope Capital Games begins to address, because I feel that the game now, they've done a really good job with these light speed bundles trying to catch players up, but there's some other things that I think they've neglected in their time of Galaxy of Heroes, and I think now is going to start coming to a head, and hopefully they correct it so that way players continue to not only engage with this game but purchase things and, keep this game going for another 8 years. So let's thank my channel members so much. Those of you on the Jedi Master and, of course, those at the Wampa tier, thank you guys for all of your continued support. It is just so appreciated. And to those of you who are on the council, you may not yet be granted the rank of Master, but still very much appreciate all of you guys continuing to put your faith in me. So let's get into the game. And the first one, obviously, we've got to talk about Zetas. This is a resource that I think has reached a very unique place in Galaxy of Heroes. What I mean by this is, when Zetas first came into the game, it was something where it was like, okay, we gave 10 characters Zetas. And then every new character who would come out along the way would get a single Zeta. Maybe a special character like Jedi or like Commander Luke would get 3, or R2D2 where people would get 2, but that most characters only had a single Zeta. And that was fine. Like, you were kind of able to keep up with the economy. It wasn't overly ridiculous. And then as time has gone on and on and on, characters sort of need their Zetas to just be relevant, right? And that's kind of been a big issue that we've been seeing in this game. And so I think Zetas are something that, with all these lightspeed bundles they've released, they're going to have to make sure they make those accessible, because players are going to feel like all they're going to be doing is farming Zetas from now on. If you buy all these bundles, you don't have any of the Zetas for the characters, all you're going to feel like is that you have to farm Zetas, and that you're going to be behind. That I can't even equip Zetas on the Beskar and Mando characters because they have to go to Kylo. I'm going to buy this Rebel pack and I can't put a single Zeta on anybody. I'm going to go buy the Supreme Leader Kylo Ren bundle, but I don't have any Zetas for it. I think that's kind of the position we're in right now. And so I think going into 2024, I hope they make, whether it's events or available with different currencies that are, when they made them available, like, the argument you could make is, well, Phil, they're available for the raid currency. And they are. You'd be very well correct that they are available for raid currency. But they're a bit expensive. Let's not pretend that this is a easy price, right? It's a bit much. It's a lot. So, fortunately, I've got my Zeta ability thing coming later today, whenever I do my challenges. But it's definitely something going into 2024 I really hope they address. Whether it's through an event, whether it's through just increasing drop rates, whatever it is, increasing the amount we get, I think it would be really good for the game. The next one, sticking with stuff that Cal Ripken Jr. needs, I want to talk about some of these gear pieces, particularly this one right here. This piece it's criminal behavior that you need so many of these pieces. Pieces like this, even this one, right, these lower level gear pieces. At the stage of the game that we're at, stuff like this should not be a, how do I say it? Like, a piece like this should not be holding players up. Look at this. The thing's even wrong. You click into it and you click back out. It shows a hollow disc instead of a stun cuff. But a piece like this should not be holding players up. And it is right now. It's holding players up in the game because they're just not common enough. They don't really drop anywhere else. And this is something I think Galaxy of Heroes and Capital Games has struggled with. They've never found a good balance for pieces of gear like this. They need to find a way to introduce stuff like this into the game without making it so that way players at the top end get crazy amounts of carbonite circuit boards and bronzium wiring. right? Because you don't want that. Like you don't want to insert a piece like this and flood the market with them, and then Arnold and everybody else never has to buy Carbonite circuit boards again. Like Capital Games doesn't want that, and I'm not stupid enough to recommend that for them. But they do need to find a way to increase the drop rate of those or increase where those go, because I think right now in the game, certain things like that have kind of fallen to the wayside, that they don't know how to continue to keep that level of gear in the game. And I think that's something that I would really love to see, especially as someone who needs them, right? But it's a piece that I think a lot of players need, where you look at a lot of these pieces and you're like, man, like I'm going to have to go farm those. And it's like, yeah, you know what? You are, because they just don't appear naturally as much, especially when you're not farming the nodes that they're on for characters anymore. So just keep that in mind. I think going into 2024, there's a lot of those gear pieces, and I picked that one in particular. But there could be plenty of other ones where I think they need to increase the rate with which they drop, recognizing that you don't want to break the Carbonite circuit board economy per se, but they should not be an issue for players at the lower levels of the game anymore. They should not be issues for players at the top end of the game anymore. Like, let's let players focus on Kyra text. Let's let them focus on signal data, and let's alleviate that crunch. So that would be another resource going into 2024 that I hope they kind of take a look at and see, is that something that we could be dealing with? Now, I say this at least 5 times a year, so I apologize for beating a dead horse, but Bronzium data cards, the possible characters in here needs a massive overhaul. These have not changed since launch. And I really think that they need to put in more characters in here. In fact, every character who goes accelerated, in my personal opinion, should be in Bronziums. I'll tell you why. One of the areas Capital Games, I think the reason these Lightspeed bundles are such a big success is because how many players actually are farming. Like, you don't earn shards of characters naturally in this game. The natural accumulation of shards is not something that happens. You think, I've never farmed, like, look, I've never farmed Kit Fisto. I've been playing for how long, and my Kit Fisto is still not 7-star. Now, you could say, oh, well, Phil, during that time, you've made progress, but I don't even have him at 7 stars yet. And I've played this game for years and years and years. So you look at some of these other characters and you're like, wow, yeah, you know what? Like Hondo. You know, he's an accelerated character now, and I still have not accumulated. I've only accumulated 14 shards of him. And that was all through those bonus events where they were throwing him inside of, like, the login rewards for the daily web store. My point is, this game has always struggled with trying to give out shards in a way that I think is meaningful at the time that you can actually get them. Like, you could say, oh, well, they're in assault battles. But by the time that you're really able to take advantage of that, you already have those characters 7-star anyway. So I think they need to take a look at some of these newer characters who are coming into the game and putting them in Bronzium data cards after they're accelerated. Because Bronziums are a big part of early Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Obviously, as you get later in the game, you're going to use your ally points for Datacron stuff. But early on, being able to use them for Bronzium data cards is huge. And especially if you put characters in here who are really good, you'd see a lot more players making this a priority. So, just something to think about. I think that character shards needs to be a focus of attention going into 2024, because I think they're seeing with these Lightspeed bundles that it's a big success. And I mean, if that's all they're going to do from now on, I mean, that's fine. But I think you could maybe increase the shard drops on some of these things in Bronziums. You know, that'd be a big thing for me. The final resource for going into 2024 that I think they're going to need to tackle is related to mods. So, mods and mod slicing materials, they did a really great job with the Jabba event. But one thing that was not touched was these. The Mark II thermal exchange unit. Some of these other pieces that we need, particularly this one for me, has been a huge struggle to get more of. And you could say, oh, Phil, well, that's just your problem. But that's going to be a problem for everybody. When you increase the economy of something and not something else, it always leads to problems. And I think this is one that the game's going to have to kind of solve, is the mod crisis that exists in Galaxy of Heroes, where You guys are very, very good at giving us health mods, but not about speed and offense and critical chance and potency and tenacity. And then on top of that, the slicing materials we get, you can take a lot of mods to green, but getting them above that is getting to be a bigger and bigger challenge for players, and particularly those who are in those earlier stages of the game. I mean, I can completely understand it. And so I think that you need to take that look and say, is it time that we start increasing the availability of a resource like this? Because you want players interacting with stuff. You want players to feel like they're making progress. And when you're gated by something that silly, it definitely hurts. Like, I can tell you, it is painful to me to have to go in and be like, oh my gosh, I can't upgrade this mod because of that piece. Like, it is a huge drain on my morale. But I think in 2024, I hope they solve it, because it is a crisis that we're in. A lot of players need mods. A lot of them need slicing materials. And while the Jabba event was really good for some aspects of that, we need to continue to get more of that stuff that goes along with it, so that way our rosters can progress at that same rate as before. So that's the end of the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Like, subscribe, comment. I love all of you. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.